Welcome to another Tuesday Mortgage Coach interview. My name is Dave Savage, and today's one of those days where I'm just super proud and excited that we have the best of the best as part of our community, because I had planned to interview Brian Johnson. He had a scheduling conflict. I had to call an audible, and getting a new guest within 24 hours was just, I don't want to say it was easy, but I emailed some of the most successful loan officers in the country, and they're like, Dave, I could be there. So this is just one of those times when having an amazing community just makes such a difference. I think this call is going to be incredible. As everybody knows, we record these. It'll be in our YouTube channel by end of day. And I'm going to go back and forth in our YouTube channel a number of times today, because I think we're going to be giving you homework assignments, referencing recent interviews that we've done. So you might want to be logged in. If you have two screens, have one of those screens be our YouTube channel, because we're going to be referencing it multiple times. So the topic today is spring home buying season. It's here. The opportunity is here. And the best way we can serve, obviously, is to close loans on time and keep our promise. But the second best way is to bring new buyers into the market, whether it's a first-time home buyer, whether it's being part of moving, getting a move-up buyer to move, using the tools you have as a mortgage coach to drive spring home buying season and make it awesome for agents, make it awesome for families. So the two guests we have today we have Mr. Danny Horanyi. What's up, Danny?
Good morning, everybody.
Super good to have you, brother. So he has done over 1,500 total cost analysis experiences. So that is a lot of families that have been impacted by Mortgage Coach through Danny and his team, and they have done a whole lot of production. So Danny, real quick, what markets are you in? And just give us a little color around your team and your production.
In San Diego, California, and last year, as it shows up on the screen, we helped 874 families for $391 million in volume. And this year, we're targeting 1,200 for $565 million.
Love it, brother. It's super exciting. Can't wait to hear you unpack your ideas. I'm going to have you go second, so hopefully that's good. Being the anchor woman for today's call, she was the last one to show up for the call, so she gets to go last. What's up, Kelly?
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you so much for moving your schedule around and making time to come and give value to Mortgage Coach. We really appreciate it.
You bet.
Well, Kelly, I don't know if you know it, but you are almost in the 1,000 club. Kelly has actually been using Mortgage Coach the least amount of time of the three guests that we have, but I think you're like 836 total cost analysis. So a lot of families have been impacted by you. Real quick, what market are you in? And just give a little bit of color around your production.
I'm in the Phoenix Scottsdale market in Arizona, and 70% of my business is conventional, 30% is government, and we're about a 75-25 split between purchases and refinances.
Well, I have interviewed you a number of times. I can't wait to hear how you're crushing it right now in spring home buying season. So if you don't mind, Kelly, you feel free to ask the other guests questions. So jump in. You don't have to wait till the last third of the call to talk, but we will be featuring your ideas and strategies probably about 9:40-ish. Is that cool?
That's fine.
All right. So kicking things off, we got Mr. Dan Keller. Dan has done 1,282 total cost analysis, and actually I think it's a little north of that. Dan is crushing it in the Seattle market. Dan, just give us a little bit of color around the market you serve and your mortgage practice, and then we'll get into you being the first interview of the day.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everyone. I'm up here in the Seattle marketplace. My business is built around purchases, so I'm literally 99.9% purchase. And I would say primarily I'd see over 70% of that is first-time home buyers in today's market, 2017.
That's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing your strategies. I have done a lot of life with Mr. Dan Keller. Seems like this picture was just yesterday. Was this last year or the year before at Sales Mastery?
That was year before with Tom Ferry and you. Yep.
Yeah. So Dan is a great content creator, a great friend. Was this one last year or the year before, or were those the same year?
That was the same year where Tina Bellevue and I had the stage together talking about social media and video.
Yeah, she is awesome. And by the way, if anybody who's on this call doesn't know who Tina is, she's one of the top Keller Williams agents out of Baltimore. I've interviewed her twice. I interviewed her a couple weeks ago, and she built her mortgage or her real estate practice on Facebook. So Facebook is her #1 marketing tool. She's, and she's not doing Facebook marketing. Not saying that you shouldn't be, but if you've never heard her interview, I've interviewed her twice on how she just does incredible business. One of the top producers with Keller Williams on Facebook. So check that one out. So Dan, we're here to drill down on, what are some of your challenges right now? How are you overcoming them? And as a mortgage coach, what are you doing to bring buyers into the market? So if you could first just, if you are having any challenges, I've heard this year's a little different than last year. What are your challenges? And then let's get into the strategies and opportunities.
Yeah. So I want to start by just letting all of our listeners know this. So the interview that you did with Danny was absolutely incredible, where he's sitting down with real estate agents and having a conversation with them about talking with them about looking into their database and finding ways in which you can provide value in regards to the move up. Same thing with Kelly. I listened to hers, and the big takeaway I got from Kelly's interview with you is she's an educator, and that's kind of exactly when my business changed in regards to the biggest pain that I had in my business last year. Near the middle end was rate shopping. It felt like every single deal I was getting pounded on rate. And, I work for New American Funding, and I don't want to say that I think we're competitive. We don't have the highest rates, we don't have the lowest rates, but it seemed like everyone that worked for Amazon and Microsoft, which is a big part of my business, they're techies, they're going to the internet, they're sitting on bankrate.com, so they're coming to me with these unrealistic expectations on rate. And so I think one of the big things that I changed in my business to eliminate that pain, and it was a work in progress, but I sit here in April of 2017, and we just had a team meeting this morning with my team, and we're shocked how such little resistance we're getting right now in regards to rate shopping. So I wanted to address that first. I think switching from a loan officer to a mortgage planner to an educator, I think that's the big aha. And if I could bring any color, any value to this call, would be make sure you structure your systems to be that educator, like Kelly was talking about. Every single one of my clients I meet face to face, period. I think that's big. If you're just giving mortgage information over the phone, I'm no different than, like Chris Smith was talking about with when he was at Quicken Loans. We're no different than a call center. And so we get that one-on-one meeting set up. If they're relocating from, for example, San Francisco to Seattle, I do a live TCA, period. We set up the call, and I walk them through that. And then prior to that, I walk them through my 12-slide mortgage planning presentation. It sets the stage for the fact that it's tougher than ever right now to get a mortgage. It's not easy. It shouldn't be easy. It's not going to be easy. But when you're working with the right team, it can certainly be simple. So that's kind of, I guess, the first pain is it was rate shopping. Second, inventory, man. We're up here in Seattle, and I think we got a couple weeks worth of inventory. So it's really figuring out ways to where when I have a first-time home buyer that's, buying a $650,000 house, putting 5% or, 8 to 10% down, how to get them in the mix with 20% down, 50% down cash, all cash buyers. And we built some strategies around that. I think having them fully pre-underwritten and talking about that with the client, that goes back into the sales process with why us and why it's not just about rate. Your rate doesn't matter if your offer doesn't get accepted. And so, just little things, inventory, rate shopping, and inventory. I think those are the two big concerns when I talk with other lenders across the country that we're all having to deal with. And I think the ones that win, the ones that are going to have great years, are loan officers that are building strategies around educating around those two topics and those fears, and showing the borrowers the value in working with us and how we have systems and structures in place to win.
Love it. So a couple things, folks. One, he referenced, as he kicked off the call, the interview I did with Danny and Kelly. I have put links to what we call the real world scripts in the chat. So if you don't know how to use the chat, learn to use it, but in GoToMeeting, there is a place where you can check that out. Also, I want to shine a light, because we will reference it multiple times. We have what we call real world scripts. These are Skype interviews that I've been doing for the past 3 weeks. This is the one I did with Bill Hart yesterday. We'll talk about that later. He referenced the one I did with Danny. Again, we haven't even promoted that yet because it's so fresh, you know, but it's already been watched over 500 times, and I've had so much feedback. So this is a homework assignment for anybody on the call that hasn't watched this interview. And then, of course, Kelly, I interviewed her, I think 3 weeks ago, how much time flies, on her borrower educational experience. So those have both been put in there. So Dan, what are the strategies that you're deploying, you know, that you could share in the next, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, and let's try to pull a script out of it. So give us a strategy, give us a script, and let's try to do one or two.
Well, yeah, I think when you and I did the Skype call, I think it starts with, you know, I've embedded MortgageCoach into my business, my team, and one of the most, I think, one of the best things that I did in my business was teaching my team how to use MortgageCoach. So I have a loan partner who helps pre-qualify every single borrower that comes in. So I have the initial call, and whether they're referred over to us by a real estate agent or I have a big web presence up here, the first contact is me. I set the stage for what to expect next, and a part of that is my loan officer assistant, Jason, is going to be reaching out to you to gather some more information so that we can structure a mortgage planning meeting, and it will be highly educational and highly profitable for them. Part of that is we need to gather some information from you. The second part of my call to them is I need a couple of pieces of data from them so that I can get them a TCA report in advance. And, you know, I think I got this from Jeremy Forcier a couple of years ago, and it's a part of the sales process, and it's worked out really well for me where I get that to them even prior to them taking application or prior to them coming in, because now they can see how we operate, how we present mortgage loan options. Yes, they can look at the rate and see that we're competitive. And part of that is, whether I'm making a video or it's a phone conversation around it, assuming that you meet the criteria in which you just told me about over the phone, I'm going to present to you some loan options to look at before we get together, and we'll discuss these and fine-tune these during our mortgage planning meeting. And so after that call, we're starting to work on that. Jason, my assistant, will work on that. He'll shoot that out to them. He'll make the introductory phone call to them to gather more information and then set the meeting. And so I think it's a part of the sales process right out the gate. If they're relocating, or if I feel like you know, they're in a position where they're really shopping us, and I have time, I'll drop the video in there. Right now, with how busy I need to hire, bottom line, but we're just too busy right now. So I'm probably 50% of the time using the video option, which I'd like to get higher. But initially, we get them the TCA report. If they're renters, I drop in the rent versus own option so we can have some dialogue around the benefits of owning versus renting. And so that's the first thing we do, is we structure it up front. The second strategy is when they come in for the in-office meeting, it's centered around, I think I sent you a slide, Dave, it's centered around the housing market's on fire. And you have to have a strategy if you're going to win. And this is part of the sales process that I'm using right now. I've created basically 5 tips for getting your offer accepted in a hot seller's market. 1, you need to be working with a professional that has a great reputation. Look me up on Zillow, look me up on Yelp, and then the key being local. Okay. 2, you need to have a loan officer that's willing to make a pre-offer call. I not only make a pre-offer call to the listing agent, I send them a personalized video with the pre-approval letter. That's been a big, and talk about going after listing agents, it's a great strategy because they're seeing that and they're like, gosh, my lender's not really doing this. This is a great idea. Number 3, getting fully credit income.
Time out, Dan. I was on a mastermind call, and Danny, I think, was on that call too a few weeks ago with a bunch of leaders. In that personal video, we were hearing that they were doing it with a Facebook video, and we were also hearing they were doing a text video to the agent, but I also interviewed over a dozen agents 3 weeks ago saying, hey, what's most important to you about the lenders and how are you really distinguishing offers? And they all spoke to the fact that, you know, the more credibility that the loan officer has, the fact that they call me, they really position the family. The video was a nice touch because they could share it with, you know, their sellers. And so I just want to echo, that is a best practice. It's been well vetted. If you are not doing it, you know, you're really missing out for your buyers. But anyways, keep going.
Nope, it's a great added touch. Number 3, getting the borrower fully credit, income, and asset underwritten up front, so you can offer an expedited closing. And I talk about that when I'm making the call. I talk about that in the video. And number 4, you know, up here in the Seattle market, it's not uncommon to remove all contingencies, meaning no inspection. People are doing a pre-inspection, no financing or appraisal contingencies. And when you're prepared, when you're educated, you know, removing your earnest money, removing contingencies, yeah, there's some risk, but it's easier to do when you're educated and you're prepared. And then number 5, the ability to close quickly. I think the ability to work quickly is what, you know, you're talking the seller's language. You're telling them, you're speaking in a way in which they want to hear. So we go over that.
And real quick, I want to give the others an opportunity to add anything to that. Danny, do you have anything to add to those 5 strategies?
Dan, this is awesome and perfect. And I really like how you're focusing on the needs of the client and their agent partner and kind of thinking through the challenges that they're going to have and adding value. It's not just, hey, I have this loan whenever you're ready and whenever you find a place. You're becoming an active part of them getting their offer accepted, which is perfect.
Cool. And then Kelly, I will have you, if you could be sure to speak to that during your session in the last third of the call. Anyways, keep it rolling down. We've got about 5 more minutes with you.
Yeah. And so I want to backtrack real quickly. So when we actually sit down for the mortgage planning meeting, I have my clients fill out an all about you form. And one of the questions on that all about you form, we mail that out to our clients. And so they either scan it in or they bring it in. My assistant make sure that we have that prior to our meeting. One of the questions on that, or one of your big concerns right now as you're considering purchasing a home, and then what are you looking for in a mortgage professional, and what are your concerns surrounding the mortgage process? And so I think a big part of the sales process is understanding your client's fears. Same thing with your real estate agents. When I'm making my real estate agent calls and checking in, how you doing? You know, what are your biggest pains right now? What can I do to help? And you know, it's great being surrounded by guys like Tom Ferry and gosh, the call with Bill Hart the other day, and guys like you, Dave, and some of the coaches, other coaches I'm affiliated with, because I can lean on them. I'm not a coach. I'm a producing loan officer, and so you know, finding out what they need and then going and getting that information and getting it back to them in this market, which is it's different. It's unusual up here in Seattle. It's super valuable to your agent. So I think going back and finding the borrower's concerns and fears and addressing those up front. I think I posted something and tagged you the other day on a review that I got, Dave, on Facebook. And it's funny that this was a client that purchased in the Seattle marketplace. They relocated. The guy up front was all about rate. And when you see his review, it had nothing to do. He listed 4 or 5 qualities of my team and didn't even bring up rate. And I thought that was profound. I mean, I feel like I shared that with my team. We're doing something right. We're bringing more value than just rate. And, you know, I got to give you a shout out. The TCA Mortgage Coach is a big part of that.
Yeah, well, the other thing, the takeaway that every mortgage coach I talk to, now more than ever, are adding that video. You can do it from your mobile device. It shows up on a desktop, so family sees it on a desktop, they get it. You can both record it and view it from your mobile device, and it can be updated. So, you know, think about it, and I would be interested to hear, is anybody on the call right now using the Mortgage Coach TCA? You know, obviously you're using it to prepare the buyer to make the offer. Are you using it with the listing agent at all? You know, that may be appropriate, may not be appropriate, depends a lot on the circumstances. But I can't emphasize enough every time I interview a top producer how much more important in today's market adding the video is to the total cost analysis. Anything you want to add to that, Dan?
Dan Keller or Danny?
Dan Keller. Dan Keller.
No, I mean, I think like I was sharing with the crew. I think it's embedded into my practice. I think we talked about this on our call. If for some reason Mortgage Coach went away tomorrow, I literally would have to rework a big part of my business, a big part of my sales process. So, no, I think it's big. I think one of the last things I want to say in closing is you're called Chris Smith. I've known Chris for years. I knew him when he was with Tech Savvy Agent. I've got to watch him, develop and just grow, and he's just such a stud. One of the things that he talks about is how you sell and selling with confidence, selling with some swag. And I think, again, near the end of last year, I think, one, when you have a fair amount of business, you're not needy. I think before, a lot of loan officers, and myself included, I was selling out of need. And when I started selling out of abundance and educating and going into that meeting with the attitude and the approach, the borrower really, I truly believe this, the borrower needs us more than I need them. And when that shows, and when you do that through educating and providing value, it literally makes the sales process so much easier. And so I kind of, if all the listeners, I encourage you. I think you have 2 interviews now with Chris Smith.
Yeah, I interviewed him most recently on conversion, and then I interviewed him last December on Facebook marketing. It was basically how to generate leads in December, how to convert online leads a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they were spectacular interviews. I mean, the guy is just an incredible communicator, and he's got the science of selling down. Yeah. So thanks for shining a light on that. And everybody, I did put a link to Chris Smith's interview in the chat. And like I said, I'm going to reference our YouTube channel a few different times. I passionately believe it's the most valuable educational content in the industry. I mean, there's just the interviews, and it's not about me, it's not about Mortgage Coach, it's about the quality of our community. The people that are being very transparent, sharing their best ideas is just amazing, and it's all there for you. Whether you are a mortgage coach, and don't hesitate to share this with folks that are loan officers that aren't on the mortgage coach team. This is our gift to the industry. So Dan, any last words before we transition to Danny?
Yeah, so last thing, 6 things right now. I want to leave everyone with some things that, some items of value. So 6 topics that I'm creating commentary on, creating videos on, that I'm sending out to my realtors, and that I'm touching on with new home buyers. Number 1, we have a lot of questions. So every time I do a first-time homebuyer class, or every time I meet with a client, I talk about their fears. I do 2 first-time homebuyer classes a month. We're averaging 22 attendees per class. So I'm talking with almost 100 first-time homebuyers or homebuyers a month. And this is kind of a summary of the fears in the marketplace. The first thing is bubble. Are we heading toward another bubble? So research that, write commentary, create commentary, make a video around why we are or why we aren't. We're up in the Seattle marketplace, and we've got a great jobs market. I talk about that. The second thing is how competitive the market is, strategies, which we just talked about, 5 tips to win in a competitive market. The third thing, down payment requirements. Can you buy in a competitive market with less than 20% down? And that's where TCA really comes into play. Number 4, potential for low appraisals. And what to do if the appraisal comes in low, what to do, obviously, if you're waiving your appraisal and your financing contingency, what options are there? And then number 5, the tax benefits of owning versus renting. And lastly, which is a big one for move up, is selling. I don't want to sell my house right now because I don't think there's another house out there that we can buy. What do we do if we find ourselves in that situation? Or how do we sell? And so those are just 6 things right now. If you're looking for information to do research on, make a video on, maybe even just write a LinkedIn blog or a blog post on, and share it with your agents and your borrowers. I get a lot of contacts off of social media with the information that I share, and it works.
Love it. You rocked it out, bro. You kept on time. Thank you very much. By the way, everybody, I just put Dan Keller's Rent versus Own in chat, and I will also add that to his recent interview on on Skype. So if you did not check that out yet, make sure you check it out. Dan Keller has a Skype interview right here, and a link to that is also in here. So Dan, feel free to ask questions of Danny as he is sharing some of his strategies and ideas. Appreciate everything you bring to the Mortgage Coach community, brother. So Danny, you're up. Everybody kind of knows your market. They know your backstory. You know, what have been some of your challenges, and then what are the opportunities that you're exploiting in the market right now?
I think Dan really summed up the two main challenges really well, and I really think that all other challenges that we're facing are somehow connected up with those two. The rate shopping and just the availability of crazy interest rates out there right now is definitely a challenge that we've been facing, and we have some some strategies around that, actually sharing with agents just to educate them in advance and prepare them, and really prepare them for some of the things that could dramatically impact their clients around how and why these rate opportunities are becoming available. In our opinion, we have no real data behind it, with the exception of some research that we've done behind the scenes kind of in the secondary marketing, and I won't go way too far into that, but I can definitely talk a little bit about that. And then just the low inventory. And the low inventory has really driven a lot of the need that a lot of the value proposition that we have is around providing a massively beneficial experience for both the buyer's agent, our referral source, the buyer themselves, and then the listing agent. And having a system in place that really executes around that, and then sharing that story in the process of getting the client's offer accepted. And Dan really nailed that in his part, so I don't need to go too deep into that, because he really covered all the bases about really how you can get yourself positioned as part of the process of getting your client's offers accepted, and he really touched all those bases. But the strategies that we're using right now, and I'll actually even back up a little bit, really what this is about in this moment, April 2017, is getting in front of as many potential referral sources as you possibly can. We have a massive opportunity right now. With the changing market, we have a huge opportunity to share with our potential referral sources our value proposition as they're experiencing the changing market themselves. And they're seeing a change around how the lending universe is interacting with them. In the middle of 2016, there wasn't a single loan officer who was hitting open houses. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it was very few, right? Everybody was focused in on refis. They weren't hitting the open houses. They weren't going to the pitch sessions or really going to places where the realtors and referral sources were gathering. And now those people are out. They're coming out of the woodwork and really flooding the market. They're calling our agents, and it's really about creating both an offensive and defensive strategy to make sure those referral sources that are already there are, very cared for and loved on all the time. And then those that are potentially going to be open to your message and value proposition are hearing from you, and you're getting ahead of them and in front of them before some less skilled or less ethical loan officer starts to earn their business. And what we're doing to basically drive those conversations is thinking about them, thinking about their pain points, just as Dan had described. That's really the most foundational and fundamental part of our culture on our team. And it sounds like most of the mortgage coach community really shares that, is that focus on education, focus on providing value based on the needs of those people that are our customers. Our referral sources are our customers, our clients and borrowers are our customers, and if we think about them first before ourselves, and we tailor our message around their needs, we're going to win, because everything good comes from the customers. So the strategies that we've been implementing, and that have got really the one that's the newest and we're getting the most, we're kind of injecting the most energy into right now, is the move-up analysis, which we've talked a lot about in other interviews. And what I can say about the move-up analysis is that it is such a breath of fresh air for agents when you come to them with a strategy that makes them more money and that responds directly to one of their pain points in a fresh and unique way. the move up analysis itself is super powerful, but just the fact that you were thinking through the needs of the agent in and of itself is value. It has value attached to it. And right now, one of the challenges with the move up analysis is that I've had about a dozen, probably closer to 20 conversations with agents around the move up analysis, shared with them the vision around it, shared with them how we could add it to their database marketing strategies. And so far, not a single one has actually provided a list of clients that we can implement the move up analysis with, which is, I'll be super candid, is pretty frustrating to me and something that we've been constantly following up with them on. But every one of those agents has provided us with a lead. So it wasn't about necessarily the move up analysis creating business for them, but the idea of us as a true partner to their business, where we're thinking through their needs and trying to focus in on them. And think about how easy that conversation is when you're going into that meeting with something of value to bring and add to the conversation that's focused on them, instead of about, in diverting the conversation away from, how much money you're going to spend with them on Zillow leads that never convert, or how much money you're going to spend with them on, a just sold flyer that, has a super low conversion. And you can really kind of move the conversation back to something that truly is going to benefit both sides.
So, Danny, we've talked about this a lot, and then everyone, it was talked about in the Bill Hart interview. It was talked about in the interview with Danny, and so I have to think a big portion of the people know the move up strategy, but I have to think some people don't. Also, if you don't know how to do it and you come to our Thursday training this week, we will be highlighting that strategy this Thursday at 9 o'clock. I have also put examples of 2 of Danny's move up analysis in chat, so you could click on those and check them out. But Danny, if you don't mind walking us through one, I don't know, this is one that you forwarded me beforehand, although you mentioned you might want to do a different one. Is this a good one, or would you like to do a different one that you walk us through right now?
So I'll do a super brief conversation around both of these.
And I can pull up both of them, so I've got them both up now. Which one do you want to do first?
I think that's best. Let's start with the first one, the move up.
The one that
move
says
up analysis.
The one that says
no. The previous one, moving up. So these two presentations, the first one is customer facing, the second one is realtor facing. So each one really is speaking to a different audience. Now, but the content of them is slightly different, but really it doesn't have to be different. You can tailor it based on the audience that you're speaking to. So in this iteration of the customer facing analysis, it's essentially just a cost of waiting analysis. So what the move up analysis really is a kind of a repackaging with a little bit of a different spin of the cost of waiting analysis, and it's communicating out to the buyer that really there is that fear that they have, that they're holding inside, the fear that's holding them back from purchasing or moving up, even though they very likely have massive lifestyle pressure that's driving them to do so. Those fears, at least the economic fears behind moving up or waiting to get into the market later, when whatever reality they believe exists no longer exists anymore, which we know, and we have a responsibility to share with those clients that the future market is not better for them. That when rates are up and home values are up, they're essentially buying the exact same house, but paying hundreds more per month for that house, because eventually the lifestyle pressures the dam will break, and they'll have to do something, and their future selves will look back and say, wow, if only I had back then, when interest rates were still in the 4s and the home values hadn't appreciated another 10%, I would be sitting on all that equity and having that lower monthly payment instead of not. So this is essentially the move up analysis customer facing, where we essentially talk through the idea that if they were to move up
and Danny, by any chance, could you possibly use the live feature? I don't know if you have it for this one.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm going right now. So here we go. So basically, if they were to their net worth in 15 years if they were to buy now and put all of their equity into the property. So this is essentially communicating out to the client. If you buy now and put all your equity into the property, you can increase your net worth, or your net worth at the end of 15 years would be about $976,000. If you instead were to wait and interest rates were to increase 0.25% and home values go up only 1%, so this is not an extreme sensational view of the future. This is just 1% increase in home values and 0.25% increase in interest rates. This literally could happen this month, this scenario or shift in cost, that would cost $30,000 in net worth over 15 years. Not a trivial amount of money. If instead, and this is where the move up analysis gets very powerful when you're thinking through all your potential referral sources. If you instead recommend considering a reinvestment of the cash instead of them bringing 100% of their equity in, you suggest that they look at an investment that yields a 4% rate of return, which again is not an extraordinary sensational rate of return on investment. You can certainly loop in their financial planner, which is one other space where you can get add value back to a potential referral source. If they don't know how or where they can get a 4% rate of return, that's definitely a place where you can loop in another professional. And if instead of rolling all of their tax-free gain, for most clients, they have the tax-free capital gain opportunity leveraged into another investment, that they would in fact enhance their net worth even more to a tune of over $100,000 better than if they were to just wait and purchase later. Now, the one that is agent focused, which is the get more listings.
Okay, so I'll go to that one.
Yeah.
But by the way, before I go to that one, I want everybody to know that when my screen was moving, Danny was moving that. So that was Danny using Edge Live. We're going to go ahead and go to the agent one. Make note of it, that there'll be a few times that Danny highlights specific things within this report, and the report's moving. And so I will notice he's attached a video to it. And again, everyone, I'll make these samples available. But for now, I'm just going to drive this experience. So Danny, go ahead and walk us through what we're looking at here. And I will have the mobile version up in a minute.
The video of this presentation is directed towards the agent. The content, though, could easily be used for a client instead of the agent. And I actually believe that this presentation is a little bit more powerful because it really creates contrast between where they are now, their current mortgage, and where they could be if they moved up. Now, in this case, we actually took a real client of ours and looked back at their purchase, and we looked back at their basically all the real details of their file, and we inputted it into the current section. So this is at least the current side of things is a real live client, and then the future is just a projection of we're making an assumption that if their current value of home is $715,000, that likely they would move up into something that was $925 if they were going to move up. Now we can tailor this to whatever is appropriate to your market. It could be from 300 to 400 or whatever that ends up looking like, and essentially show that based on their current structure, yes, they're absolutely going to have a higher monthly payment. They're shifting their purchase price up significantly, and so that payment does shift up. What a lot of the clients that we've shared, not necessarily this presentation, but other iterations of rent versus own or cost of waiting, or when we do the counteroffer analysis that shows the difference between what they were expecting to pay and then what the new monthly payment would look like on whatever the counteroffer coming into them was, clients are consistently shocked at how little an additional $200,000 of home will cost them. They're always surprised. They have in their mind this astronomical number, and when you actually put it down on paper for them, and not only that, when you add even more benefit by sharing with them, well, it's not just that you're, it's not all negative, right? Yes, your payment, if you went with the move up and reinvest strategy, which is that same one where you put the money back in, put minimum down payment, and then shift some of those other assets into an investment opportunity yielding 4%. that yes, the payment does rise by $1,835, but you're also enhancing your tax deductibility by more than $400, and you're adding to your net worth by over, in this case, it's almost $200,000 over the course of 15 years. So these numbers really, it's not meant to close them right here, right? That's not the purpose of these conversations. The purpose of the conversations is to open their mind to the reality that they can afford it, and that they actually, in fact, will be better off in the future if they can really get their head around the benefits. And deep down, they want to be in that bigger house. They want to be in the neighborhood with the better school district. They have that inside of them, and they're using fear and misinformation or lack of information as a barrier to what they really want to do. And these conversations are allowing them to open their mind and fill in all that fear with facts so that they can move forward and ideally get themselves out into the market.
All right, guys. So let's net this out. 2 big strategies: get in front of as many agents as possible and talk to them about how you're going to get buyers into the market and how you're going to help them sell move-up buyers into bigger homes. And so if you want to listen to that strategy in even more detail, listen to the Skype conversation that Danny and I had a couple weeks ago. And this is a new strategy. So Danny and I, in 2 more weeks, will probably be doing another Skype interview on this. So we have shared examples of the total cost analysis. You have a quick 10-minute and 25-second video where we really lay this out. And then, of course, Bill Hart, we don't have time to get into the whole Bill Hart strategy, but Bill Hart recently did an interview with Larry Kendall, the author of Ninja Selling. Hey, we really need to get Kelly on within 3 minutes, Danny. But if you would really quick just put some color around that strategy, describe it in like 1 to 2 minutes. They can listen to the Bill Hart video to get the whole show. But would you mind sharing that real quick?
Absolutely, and I think I can get it done in 1. So essentially, Bill is advocating for us to get out and educate our referral sources and clients, and he calls it our responsibility, and I couldn't agree with that more. We have a responsibility to share basically the information that we have from having navigated through this with so many clients, and as Dan referenced, basically educating them about the bubble, the things that are creating fear. And one of the things that Bill adds to the move-up analysis is this idea of the dual market. And this I've talked to a couple agents about it yesterday after I heard about it, and it's a big idea. And the dual market essentially says that in every marketplace, there's a kind of a low end where things are super hot, and then as you go up in price, things cool off a little bit. And so there's going to be people that are straddling that line where they're, as a seller, they're in a super low inventory market, and they get to sell in a seller's market. But as a buyer in the higher end market, because they're moving up, they actually get to buy in a buyer's market. Which, if you're a client thinking, well, I'm fearful that I'm going to lose money here, right? All I'm going to do is put myself in a bad position if I sell and just buy bigger in a seller's market. You can again take that fear away with this concept of the dual market and allow them to act.
Love it. And we got some scripting from Larry Kendall on how to have that move up analysis conversation. So again, this is being recorded. It's 9:44. If you want to write down this script, it's in 2 places. It's here. And then also you can go in, if you go to the Bill Hart interview from a couple days ago, or actually I think it was yesterday. So big idea yesterday. If you go to that Bill Hart video, I always put links in value below it. So here is the script in the description underneath the interview from my interview with Bill yesterday. So it's, Kelly, you know how it is. It's like you go last, you get less time. So I'm sorry, but hopefully we can get an hour's worth of content in 15 minutes. How you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing well. This has actually been great. I've been taking all kinds of notes. I'm ready. I'm fired up.
All right. So as everybody knows, we talked about Kelly at the beginning, had a spectacular 2016. She's looking to take it to the next level this year. I did an interview on Skype with Kelly a few weeks ago. Check it out. Super awesome interview. Kelly, I mean, let's just get right into it. You know, what are your struggles and what are the strategies that you're deploying right now to crush it in this market?
I don't think my struggles are any different than what Dan and Danny have talked about. We're certainly seeing compression in interest rates. We're seeing some very aggressive terms, but outside of interest rates, because we all have had those over time, right? Rates get aggressive, various lenders get aggressive, etc. I think one thing that I'm really seeing is we're seeing a ton of new loan officers coming into the market, which means competition. And realtors are also seeing a lot new people coming into their market. So what I'm talking about with realtors today is how are they positioning themselves with regard to not only competing with younger new realtors that are coming into the market, but how are they positioning themselves to talk to one of the biggest segments of buyers today, which is millennials, which kind of leads really nicely into MortgageCoach. So it's all about apps, it's all about technology, but what does that really mean? So I'm focused on spending a lot of time and effort on really just taking the real estate community and taking them on this journey of a cost analysis and all the various ways we can use it. You know, we spend a lot of time focusing on the purchase and the move up, and all of that is awesome, and I believe that we need to have that in our practice. But once I really start thinking about how to leverage MortgageCoach, the bottom line is I want every realtor in this market to have my MortgageCoach app on their phone. So now it's a matter of shifting my thought away from the client and making sure when I'm doing that pre-qual analysis that I'm also texting it to the realtors so they have it when they're out shopping with their client over the weekend. So that's really just kind of what's on my mind today and the focal point.
I love it. So the strategy is preparing agents for the next gen home buyer using technology. For those of you that don't know it, you know, check out the last interview I did with Kelly. She talked about how she does events with buyers, agents. She does all kinds of events. Also, I have done, well, you did this one video that was super cool where you showed how to, you know, use a rent versus own analysis. In this particular video, was it agent facing? I can't remember the context of it, but I think this kind of aligns to the idea that you're talking about right now. Is just getting this rent versus own analysis out there?
Yep, absolutely. So, you know, again, it's our job to make sure that we are effectively communicating where the industry is going, and we can do that so easy with MortgageCoach. It's a no-brainer. So I love it. I mean, I think of all different ways I could use it. So I sent you a few links a couple days ago, one of which is a high-producing realtor. We're still early on in our relationship. He calls me and says, hey, I'm taking out a borrower this afternoon. Can you just run some numbers for me? So the old world would be, sure, rates are running right around this. You'd be looking about a P&I of this, right? It would be a 3-second conversation, and we would move on. But instead, what I did was go ahead and just throw together a very quick cost analysis based on a little bit of information he gave me, sent it to him.
Is this the one? Is this the one? Chris Klein?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us what we're looking at.
Yeah, I sent it to him via mobile. And again, I want to make sure I'm on his cell phone, right? So he was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. You know, how many people are really just taking that next step to educate? Because it's not just a matter of giving him the information, but now we're showing him and get the opportunity to show him kind of what's behind the curtain. So this is what we do. We really do invest in our business partners and our clients, and we educate them with this type of technology, among other things.
Okay, so I'm taking it that you are meeting with agents. So you're doing part of what Danny is saying, meeting with as many agents as you could possibly meet. You are preparing them for the next gen home buyer, right? And then one of the conversations you're having is where you're pulling out the mobile app. So by the way, let's get into this at a tactical level. Are you pulling it out on a mobile app, or are you pulling it out as a iPad? You know, let's get a
On
little
my cell
more
phone.
specific.
Just on my cell phone, yeah. I'm trying to really shift into the mobile because not everybody always has their tablet with them, but everybody always has their phone with them. So.
Okay, and then let's just script that out. I mean, start that conversation, because I think that's so hard for some folks. Is like, okay, you pull out your mobile phone. What do you say? Like, what do you say to the agent? And then just give us a minute or two, and I'll walk through your app right here. We are looking at your mobile phone. What are you saying to the agent about this strategy?
Well, I start a little bit by just giving them context into what's happening with mortgage rates. And so, you know, many times they get frustrated that their buyers are shopping and maybe not using their preferred lender. So I give them a little bit of context, kind of like Dan and Danny referred to. There's changes in this market. So we talk about them. And then from there, it's just an easy progression into, and you know, Dave, here's one tool that we use to not only just give information to your buyer with regard to interest rates, but we kind of dig deep into a variety of things that go into this app. And what's so great about this is when they're out shopping with you, you can have a copy, they have a copy, this is what it looks like, they pull it up on their phone, gives them the estimated cash to close, the total monthly payment, etc. And they love this. And the other great thing is they can call me, I can do a live tutorial with them, just kind of walk them through any questions they have, and I can update this within seconds. So now we take what used to be this old paper, you know, that a lender would give, and we'd write things like APR and all this kind of stuff on an old fee worksheet, and now it's live in their hands, and they love it. And so when I talk like that, obviously I'm passionate about it, but then it gets them excited. They want it. They want, oh my gosh, I want my buyers to have that. And that's really where the magic is, because at the end of the day, if we're not relevant, if we're not providing information that really helps them with their businesses or helps our communities with the home buying process, then I don't feel like we're doing what we're set out and what we should be doing. So,
love it. And then in terms of sharing it so that they download it, are you, you know, right on the spot, you know, linking it to them? Do you send them a link before the meeting? How do you drive the share?
Yeah, so some of these I'll just send with them. So if you're sitting down with me, I'll say, hey, I'm going to send you a link real quick. You're going to have to download the app, and let's pull it up on your phone. So boom, now they're already there. Got
it. And I want to remind everybody, you can share the link from the Mortgage Coach app. I mean, this is an iPhone that I'm in right now. Click on Kelly's business card, her digital Mortgage Coach card, click share link, and now boom, we could text or email that. So, you know, that is something that we teach every single mortgage coach. And the way we teach it is to make sure that you hold your mobile app away from yourself. So get used to using Mortgage Coach as a storytelling tool or a strategy explaining tool. Remember, like Kelly said, the goal is to get this app installed on every single borrower's mobile phone, the husband, the wife, everyone who's involved in the decision, every realtor. And the beautiful thing is, it's not like they need to go, the way they download the mobile app is they click on the link that you either text them or you email it. So again, it's as simple as just, you know, wherever your logo is, if you're a mortgage coach, you click on your name, you click the share button, you either email it or text it. We do recommend texting. And anybody who's on this call right now, if you text me a total cost analysis to 949-370-7393, I'll give you some feedback on that. Also, I want to remind everybody that, you know, we have a complete tutorial that walks you through how to share it. We have a tutorial that walks you, you know, earlier Danny was doing our live product. We walk you through how to add a video. By the way, Kelly, you are using your mobile phone to record Mortgage Coach videos now, right?
Yes, Dave.
I know. It took me like, I think, a year to get you off the desktop.
No, it took me like a year, yeah. So, you know, I'm a fast learner, but no, I love it. I love the video on my phone now.
Love it. So remember, we've got a tutorial, we've got explanations how to do it. The highlight feature, we've got explanations how to do that. For anyone that's on this call right now and you want to download the tutorial that I'm referring to, you could go to Mortgage Coach, Member Services, and go to Quick Start Guide, and you can download a PDF of that right now, and you can print it out. So every single thing you need to know how to do on your Mortgage Coach mobile device, edit a report, add a video, do live. It's all there for you. So let's do this. We got 5 minutes. Let's do a little bit of speedball here. And Kelly, any questions you have for Danny? Danny, any questions you have for Kelly? I have got like, and if you guys don't have questions for each other, I've got like, I don't want to say 100, but there's a lot of questions that have come in from the community. Everybody in the community, I'm not going to be able to answer all your questions. Keep putting them in there because I have a feeling I can get these guys back on a call within a month or in a month, and we could continue to deliver value. But Kelly, do you have any questions for Danny?
I think my big question is, Danny, from a systematic standpoint, obviously you guys do a ton of volume. Can you just give us a little insight into who's doing Mortgage Coach, how it's being sent to the client? Is your team teeing it up for you to do the video or just the live review of the Mortgage Coach? Just a little insight into the system part of your world.
Yeah, I'll try to get through that as quickly as I can. So just like Dan, I have what's called the Hopes and Dreams call. So the initial call, usually somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes with the clients, really just asking them, going through the forward questions as Bill, had those kind of indicated in that script, understanding what their real needs are, and then ending that with, it does sound like our team's going to be a good fit for you. What I'd like to do is have my business partner, Eric or Amanda, give you a call, and they'll get some of the puzzle pieces that we'll be able to build around to get you some really, really valuable information, or to get you a side-by-side comparison of your loan options so you can make a good decision for your family. And once we have that conversation, you'll really know what you're working with, or some version of that. And then they go through the full loan application, gather up all the documentation, and we really use the total cost analysis as the prize at the end of that journey, where if they get us all their documentation and we get their credit pulled, and we really get a thorough review of their paperwork, because once we get their pre-approval in place, it's very there's a resistance to wanting to do that over again with another lender, especially if the end result is a lot of value added back to them. So then, yes, the team does build out the Mortgage Coach based on what they believe, and what my notes are from the Hopes and Dreams call. And depending on their skill level, they'll either have the total cost analysis conversation and consultation with the client directly, or they'll loop me back in to have the conversation with either a face-to-face meeting or a live call. And the majority of what we're doing right now is live calls. I can see the massive value of Dan's policy of 100% face-to-face. For some reason, we just cannot. Maybe it's just a bias on our side where we're not encouraging it strongly enough, but we're not getting those face-to-face meetings that often. I would say probably only 20% of the time. And the live calls is the way we do it instead. We just walk them through the Mortgage Coach over the phone. And we had this one client recently. He was buying a $3.6 million house. He's a strategist and consultant for Fortune 100 businesses. And as we started the live presentation, he actually started to giggle. And he was so stoked about the way the information was being presented and how easy it was to consume. He was just over the moon with it. So that's the feedback that we get, so we kind of keep going down that road.
Love it.
Love it. And for everybody who didn't connect the dots, every time Danny said live, that means they were using Mortgage Coach live feature to drive an interactive conversation. And I just want to remind folks, even if it's just that 20% of people being in your office, make sure they're downloading your app. Make sure they're getting that live experience. Danny, any quick questions for Kelly as we wrap up today's call?
Nothing off the top of my head, Kelly. I mean, I love that idea of having the realtors download the app. I've never done that before, so this is, every single time I get on these calls, I have one or two takeaways. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, this has been a fabulous call. Please let us know, did we surpass your expectations with takeaways and values? Was it a good, solid call with takeaways? And if you are a guest on this call and not currently an active Mortgage Coach member and you'd like to get a demo and learn more, click the last option. So, by the way, Danny and Kelly, we wowed them. I mean, by far, the majority of the folks on today's call said that they were wowed, and we've surpassed expectations. So that's always my goal. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another Mortgage Coach call. I do want to remind everyone that we are doing training every single day of the week. So if you go to our website, as I'm doing right now, you click on calendar, there is a list of all of our events, what's happening as they're happening. If you have not been to Mobile Wednesdays, I mean, this is just a foundation for every mortgage coach now that, you know, and Danny and Kelly have your assistants come. If you have not attended this training, you should. We go through all the fundamental tools of Mortgage Coach on a mobile device. Every single Tuesday, we're doing live training. You get all your questions answered. We will be highlighting and showcasing the move-up analysis this Thursday. Every single day of the week, we are doing Mortgage Coach University on a bunch of different strategies and tactics, but click on that, learn more. And then next week, I am interviewing Coach Mike White and Terry Murphy, realtor. So we're going to have both a mortgage coach, we're going to have a real estate trainer. It's going to be a very interesting call. Don't miss that. And again, you know, every single Tuesday we're delivering value. By the way, Danny, I don't know if you remember, but you're coming back with Kristen Messerly, and we will, by the way, Kelly, we might need to throw you into that party if you're up for it, because the whole call is going to be around, you know, using Mortgage Coach Mobile to crush it with millennials. So if you do have any time, Kelly, I would love to have you join that party.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that.
All right, everybody. Have an awesome day. Thanks for your time. Hopefully you got value. Bye now.
Bye.